I warned y'all a couple of weeks ago that we were going to talk about windows. Well, hey, you were warned. Today we're talking about windows, and this is a lot deeper topic than I ever thought it was going to be, but it's an interesting one. Okay, I've been struggling with what to do with the windows in my new old house here that I'm remodeling. The old wooden windows, do I just snatch them out and put in replacements, be done with it, or do I try to save these windows? And these windows are in bad shape. Well, a lot of you are just going to say, I'm stupid for even thinking about this, snatch these out and put in replacements. And I'm not going to say you're wrong. Seriously, that's why I was struggling with this. I finally decided, I got to at least try to save them. Okay, and there's a lot of reasons for this. And we're going to start with, I think it's important for us to understand the things we're surrounded by, to know the history of it, the details and so forth. And our houses are just a perfect example, especially older houses. I think it's important for us to understand the architectural design of the house. What style is it? Okay, and that helps us in making it look better, but it just, when we know the history of things and we understand the things we're surrounded by, it gives us a greater appreciation for them. Even the most modest of houses, there's an architectural design influence there. Okay, well, this house, there's one. And this was a very modest, small, 4-room shotgun farmhouse. But there's still an architectural influence here. Okay, and in this case, it was craftsman style. And this, what you would call a craftsman's home, especially a fine one. And for those of you that don't know what a craftsman style home is, okay, that came from the arts and crafts movement, which started in the 1880s in Britain. And it was a reaction to the Industrial Revolution. And the reason it started in Britain is because that's where the Industrial Revolution started. And then it quickly spread from there to all the countries that were industrializing, including the U.S. Well, a really popular style house that came out of that architectural design was craftsman style, with, I think, one of the finest, if not the finest house ever crafted, being the Gamble house, which was a green and green house. Okay, and green and green probably doesn't mean anything to a lot of you, but to anybody that does fine woodworking, you've probably heard of green and green. All right, their furniture was pretty much the pinnacle of woodworking skills. Gorgeous stuff. All right, well, green and green were actually architects, not furniture designers, but they designed furniture anyway to go in their houses. They literally designed the furniture to match the house. All right, it all fit and worked together. And that makes sense, okay, if you've got an old rustic log cabin. Well, you kind of need rustic furniture to go in it. If you try putting modern stuff in there, modern style, it isn't going to look right. Now, there are some people that are exceptionally talented at design and that type of thing that could make it look good. I'm not one of them people. So generally, it's best if we stick with a particular style. Okay, well, they went beyond that and they crafted specific pieces of furniture for their homes. And the arts and crafts movement, okay, there was industrialization. That was a very difficult time. Things were being made cheaply, quantity over quality. Okay, plus you had just horrible working conditions for so many in the early factories, child labor, I mean, kids literally dying in factories because of the working conditions, extreme poverty. I mean, it was a horrible time. Oliver Twist, that's what Dickens was writing about, was industrialization and just how ugly it was. What the arts and crafts movement was a reaction to that. All right, so the whole desire there was to celebrate the artisan and craftsman and put the craftsmanship back into building. All right, and not just building, but it went into a lot of buildings. okay, and in a craftsman style home was to show the craftsmanship of the people that built it. Okay, so a big part of that movement was being honest, showing the joinery, actual joinery. Things weren't just stapled together and cheap nails. There's honest joinery, mortar and tenon joints, mortise and tenon joints. Been doing brick mortar, but mortise and tenon joints, dovetails, that type of thing. True craftsmanship. Okay, and it was not just a visual movement, but also a moral movement. Okay, for people to have good jobs doing, being able to develop a craft. There had to be a demand for their skills, so it was up to people that could afford to hire craftsmen to craft fine things for them. It's kind of how it went. All right, well, this was a very popular window during that period for craftsman style houses. And this was an extremely modest house. It's built in the 40s after that movement had pretty much died, but in the 40s, there were still a lot of things left over from the 19 teens, 20s, and 30s, and these windows might have been left over. Okay, but anyway, these were still incorporated into the house, and if you see, there's 3 panes of glass at the top. That's a 3-light window, and then there's a really large pane at the bottom, clear. That's a Queen Anne style window. Well, these are all through the house, and the back door is also 3 panels of glass. The front door was also, but the front door's long since been lost, but I guarantee you originally it was also. So even as modest as this house was, that was just the only architectural feature in this house. Okay, well now I could get replacement windows just like this, and then I could have the grid put on them. Well, the grids aren't honest. All right, let me back up. They are honest, they're there, but they're there so that those windows will look like this, even though they're not this. The grids on a replacement window are purely decorative. Well, that's what the whole arts and crafts movement was against. The whole craftsman style home was against decorative. That's why they believed in showing the woodworks, and not painting it, staining it, so you could see the quality of the wood used, the type of the wood used, showing the joinery and the skills of the craftsman that made it. Okay, and that was in direct contrast to the Victorian type houses that were essentially celebrating industrialization, which those were about looks and appearances and ornamentation. All right, well, it would be for me, it just doesn't even work morally from a design philosophy to take a replacement window and put decorative strips on it so that it looks like it has a actual 3-light window, when the whole point of the crafts movement where those windows was used was to get rid of ornamentation. So anyway, we got a moral conflict there, or I do anyway. All right, but that's not just the only thing. I was looking into replacement windows, and okay, I'm very well aware of how good they are. They insulate extremely well, quick and easy to install. The prices aren't bad on some of them. Some of them, the prices are really bad. But anyway, all right, I get all the benefits. But one thing I kept hearing the salesman say over and over was, you get what you pay for, and the best way to judge the quality of a window is by its warranty. These didn't have a warranty. They didn't need a warranty. If something broke, you fixed it. This is just wood and glass with some glazing over it, so window putty, which, by the way, is the main ingredient in it's linseed oil. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. But anyway, so yeah, that whole warranty thing just tells me you can't work on a replacement window. They're disposable. That's where we've come to with windows. They're disposable. It breaks, you pull it out, and you slap in another one. Throw it away. These, you break a pane of glass, you replace that pane of glass. And I know these are horrible. They stick and everything else. Well, the reason these are so horrible, though, the reason these particular windows are in such bad shape is we just didn't know how to maintain them. We lost that skill, almost all of us. These are wonderful windows, and if you've ever worked a set of good windows that have been maintained, wooden windows, they function beautifully. They're a pleasure to raise and lower. All right, but then we started painting all around them, and then building up the paint, and then they started sticking, and then we quit maintaining the weather stripping on them, so then they got drafty, and then we didn't maintain the glazing, and then the panes started rattling, and then that got drafty, and literally we just didn't maintain them. And then that's putting us in a position to where all we can get now is disposable replacement windows. I don't think you can buy something like this anymore. I looked, I tried to find one, I couldn't. All right, so now we're putting ourselves at the mercy of companies. I could build one of these, literally, it's just wood. I can do the joinery on this and then put in the glass and the glazing. It would take time and it would be slow and tedious, and I wouldn't try long strips like this for the dividers, the stiles in here, because it would be difficult to find wood as stable as the older wood they used in these. That'd be the only challenge. But I can't make a replacement window. So that puts me at the mercy of companies. And think of where this is going right now with so many of us, all of us putting ourselves at the mercy of companies. We're rapidly getting to the point that we can't work on our own cars. We're getting to the point that companies, corporations won't let us work on our cars. A lot of vehicles now, you can't work on it. And the reason given for that is with the self-driving technology. If anybody works on the car other than their authorized repairman or the dealership, somebody else could mess up the software, and that could cause a fatality, a wreck. All right, the car companies do have a point there, but what are they going to be charging us when, to repair a car here in the future? Which cars are becoming disposable too, and then that just puts us at constantly buying cars from them. Software. I wanted to get a copy of AutoCAD to do the drawings for this house. I'm pretty decent with AutoCAD, a little rusty, but you can't buy a copy of AutoCAD anymore. You buy a subscription to it. They won't sell you a copy, all right? And the old versions won't work on the newer computers. I don't want a subscription. I don't want to keep giving them money. I want to buy a copy of the software and then maybe go make my plans and not have to keep paying them. I want to own whatever I purchase. Well, everything's going to a subscription. You just keep giving them money. And the cars are going that direction also. What happens when you can't buy anything? What happens when farmers can't buy a tractor? All they can do is essentially lease the tractor from John Deere or whoever, and then just keep giving John Deere money. And that's about where farmers are now with any repairs that have to be done. They can't work on the new tractors. Only John Deere can work on them because of the computer. So you just keep working out that money. We're making ourselves prisoners of corporations. All right, so why do I want to snatch out these windows and put in replacement windows that when they fail, I got to go back to the corporation and give them more money? Whereas these, it's going to be really painful getting them right. I know it's going to be painful, and it's going to be slow and tedious, and that's why I'm dreading this. But that's just because they've gotten in the shape they have. Once I get them back right, they'll function perfectly. And as far as energy efficiency, a wooden window in proper working condition is actually fairly efficient. And if you combine it with a storm window, the energy efficiency on a properly maintained wooden window with a storm window is almost the equivalent of a replacement window, the lower end. And plus, this will just be beautiful when I'm done. And so many houses, this is a simple home. It wouldn't be the end of the world if I lost these, but just like anything else, since I just happened to be on this, I've been paying attention to windows as I drive through town. And I see so many old historic homes that what I know were at one time gorgeous windows that had an architectural style to them that created just for the home. Those have been pulled out and replacement windows put in there that just, they don't have that style. I was looking at a really nice Gothic revival on the way over, and it had a window in the front, an arched opening for the window, and at some point, the original windows, I'm sure because it hadn't been maintained, and it just got pulled out, and they put in a rectangular shaped front replacement window and then just put plywood around it and painted it white. And it works, but the original window would have been a lot prettier. All right, and then just to take this one step further. Our houses now, they're getting cheaper and cheaper and I think uglier. Or they certainly lack the style and they're not as well built as older homes. I think we can all agree with that. All right, now, they might be more comfortable and functional, and, but the materials used generally aren't as good. They're just not put together as well, and they generally don't look as good. Okay, well, eventually we're going to get to the point that we're going to look at the houses. We're going to see some old historic houses, and then we're going to look at new houses, and we're going to be like the people were in Great Britain after the fall of Rome when they walked out of their huts and they saw the ruins from the Romans of these once great buildings. And, they're living in straw and stick huts and just wondering, how were people ever even able to make something like that? I think that's the direction we're going. Our civilization's declining. We're getting to where we don't even know what the architectural designs were or styles. We don't even recognize it, so therefore we can't appreciate it. We just know those old homes don't look like anything we see now. So that's just me and my beliefs, my thoughts on windows. And hey, maybe my thoughts are just completely backwards. It sure would explain a lot if they were. But that's just how God made me, that's how I think. And on a spiritual level, I think the closer we are to nature, the better. Exodus, God told Moses to build him an altar of unhewed stone that tool marks would just defile his work. Okay, natural things, the more natural they are, the closer they are to how God made them, I think the better. Okay, well, my home, I want it to be as natural as possible. And that's me, my personality. And that's why they make so many different style homes and so forth. And that's where knowing about architecture comes in. Pick a style that fits with your personality. Okay, so a craftsman style house wouldn't be right for a lot of you, but hey, that's perfect for me. It being all about being honest and showing the beauty of the wood itself, and then to show the joinery. And plus, I love woodworking, so that's ideal for me. A lot of you would prefer something much more modern or much more traditional. Buy a house, choose a house if possible. It's not always possible, but if possible, pick a house that's in a style that fits your personality. And if you aren't sure what style that'd be, go research architectural styles. That's fascinating stuff. And then once you start researching that, you'd be amazed at how many houses just around you that you begin to recognize, okay, that's that style, that's Gothic revival, that's Greek revival, that's Victorian, that's Craftsman, that's a ranch. And understanding all that, again, I think it just makes our world more interesting. And then we appreciate not only our own house more, but the other houses in our neighborhoods and in our towns. Anyway, that's just my thoughts, whatever that's worth. God bless and have a great day.